Welcome back to Houselights, your one-stop shop for everything you need to hear about this week in the world of entertainment. As always, I'm your host, Liz Nass, joined by my beautiful, wonderful co-host,
Claire Donohoe.
And we have the distinct privilege that we decided about 2 seconds ago to have on the podcast.
Jack Williams.
Of the Reeling It In podcast. I'm just so glad that you have your own podcast. Oh my god. That you have your own podcast to snark on these days.
Yeah, it's really great. I feel like when I get on here, I only ever talk about movies anyway, so.
But we're not talking about movies today.
For real.
He'll find a way.
He'll find a way.
Oh, I will, yeah.
I'm going to relate it back to media. Jack, whenever anything happens, I'm going to relate it back to media. But yeah, we're going to talk about just two distinct, separate things that I've been thinking about lately. And I'm making everybody else talk about it.
Tell the people what they are.
So we're going to talk a little bit about AI, and then I also want to talk about, like, what taste is in, like, media and, like, the point of broadcasting that to people. But first, I do want to talk about AI.
Okay.
And I know that you two have a lot to say about this because you're writing a column about sort of the humanities,
yes.
But the AI does feed into it. So, number one, I'm just gonna say really quick about what brought this to my attention.
Please, yeah.
Because I mean, what brought this to my attention? Everyone knows about AI, but I do research on AI, just super academic. But I do feel so male when I say that. I'm like, yeah, my research is actually on AI, but it is. Anyways, but that's not. I don't want to talk about academics. What I want to talk about is something that I've seen on TikTok recently, and I actually heard, like, in real life, this person that I know in my real personal life, a person that I know did this, like friend of a friend situation. People are using AI to discuss their interpersonal relations and get advice from people. Yeah, I saw a TikTok that was like, stop asking ChatGPT if he's into you or not. Like, stop asking ChatGPT if, like, someone is, if something they did was bad. Like, obviously he's not for you then. I'm like, what are we even talking about? What is happening? And then I was at the bar and I was talking to this girl who's a friend of a friend, and she was like, yeah, no, I was using ChatGPT the other day, and, like, ChatGPT told me, like, yeah, he's gaslighting you, girl. And I was like, ooh. What is happening? Healthcare now, please. That's all I have to say about
accessible healthcare, people in community, active listening.
So thoughts on this? I mean, obviously, I think we're all under the impression of, I'm sorry, what? But, like, I was so baffled by it because, like, what is society? Like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
I'm feeling baffled as well. I'm going to echo that. Yeah, I think that's very strange. I think it's like a dependency thing too, and an accessibility thing. And also, I mean, in the case of, like, asking about a relationship, my immediate thought is, like, shame. Like, you'd rather turn to, like, a robot for an answer than you would just, like, tell your friend, like, an embarrassing situation. Or, if you have to look up on ChatGPT if someone's gaslighting you, they are. And also break up with them. That's also your digital footprint now, so that's gonna that's there forever, digital not to freak you out. Yeah, I just think that's kind of a strange move, and it startles me, but it also saddens me, because then I think, it's like, really, why would that person have had to turn to ChatGPT? I mean,
I've been in the boat of I can't tell my friends what I'm doing with a guy because I am ashamed of, I'm going back or whatever. But I don't think ChatGPT would give me the answer that I need that my friends wouldn't.
Well, ChatGPT doesn't know you because it's a robot.
Yeah. Thoughts on this, Jack?
Yeah.
I think if it works for you, go for it. If you don't if you don't have people to talk to, why not use your fun little robot companion?
Because it's giving you real advice, though.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, it doesn't really understand the human experience.
No, not even the human experience. It doesn't know you unless you explain.
Is this much different from Googling, though? Googling the issues you're having and seeing what other people have to say about them, or just seeing what, like, an article has to say about them? Because I mean, when you think about it, AI just kind of draws from that same data. It's just kind of giving it back to you. Now, I think when you do kind of go about these things, if you are doing it that way, you need to kind of you need to have in mind, like, hey, this is an AI. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that should be in your mind the whole
Grain
time.
of salt.
Yeah.
Sort of like how Google search is.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you should treat it like a Google search. But I mean, if it's working, I mean, if you go into an AI and you say like, this is happening, what do you think? And it gives you something, and you're like, oh, hey, that's true. And you use that. You think the information it's giving you applies to your situation, then yeah, why not use that?
It's fair.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you put
It's
it
just
like
freaky.
it's freaky, but when you put it like taking
I mean,
from like an
anything new is-
article or something, I mean, it is.
That's true.
I'm not going to say it's no different than combing through an article or like learning about some like psychological thing that it could be teaching you. It is different than that, but I mean, not
'cause,
as different
like,
as I guess we were making it.
You're reading, like, when you read, like, an article about, like, oh, this is, like, my experience with my, significant other or whatever, like, it's, like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as, like, immediate or as, like, an answer as, like, literally asking ChatGPT, like, what should I do, like, almost as, like, you're having a conversation with this robot. I mean, it's, like,
It takes less
I don't know,
work.
it's different.
It takes less work on the person
Right.
to look
But I
through
guess
or
that's
like
what AI's for.
yeah, that is what it's for. Or like, I don't know. I don't want to say like critically assess all the information and pick which one is best for you. AI kind of just like gives it to you in a human sounding way because AI talks to you like it's
Yeah.
talking to you. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm in the middle, but I lean a little more toward your
Scary.
perspective, Liz, of like, I'd prefer if we didn't snowball into doing that because
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems like a slippery slope if you're not keeping that grain of salt with you in the back of your mind. And I don't know. I just
mean,
feel like
really
that's
you
not what
should-
it's for, in my opinion, which we'll get into. But
Even when you're talking to your friends, I think, because at the end of the day, it's you. What you do in your relationships is up to you, right? Like, no matter like what your friends tell you, they're not the ones making those decisions. So I guess to me, it's like there's no real difference from like. I mean, there is a difference, obviously, but I'm about to knock that over. there's if you're reading something with ChatGPT, I would hope you're going into it with the same mindset that you would if you were talking to a friend, or a similar mindset. Whereas like, or maybe the other way around. If you're talking to a friend, you're going in it with the same mindset of like reading something online because your friends know you, sure, but they don't know, they're not in the relationship with you unless
Right.
you swing that way.
Right.
They're not in the relationship with you. They don't really know what's good for you. And at the end of the day, you're making the same decision for yourself.
yeah,
Yeah. I just feel like it's a less informed opinion than like
Yeah, sure.
like a close friend.
a close friend. But I mean like I'm sure that we've all, chosen to get advice from people that maybe, I wouldn't really take advice from that person.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like this weird mix of it with like codependency of like this technology that like it feels like it's like trying to trick you, that like this is accurate information and this is also like I don't know, it just feels weird.
Obviously there's a lot of
Uncanny
accuracy
valley.
on like AI in AI general, right? Because it's
Yeah.
pulling from other data that's been, published X, Y, and Z. I think where it loses me or makes me personally less interested in doing something like asking it for personal advice is because it lacks a lot of subjectivity, in my opinion. We've been talking a lot about this in creative work in some of my English classes recently, and a lot of us in the classes are of the, general camp of like, we'd, prefer if people weren't using AI to write creative work because that's kind of watering down the work made by human beings.
I can agree with you
like
there.
creative artistic work.
Yeah.
Many of us also agree, though, that doesn't mean we just need to get rid of AI. It's a tool
Right.
for a lot of other things. It makes a lot of things super accessible outside of humanities and inside humanities, too. And, like, I don't know, we've all used it for some
A lot of application
situation or
in
another.
the health field too.
Yeah, yeah.
Alzheimer's research. I think
Yeah.
is a big one. I feel like people, when we talk about AI, people tend to talk about AI as if it's like an entity,
Yeah.
When
I feel like I just did that for sure.
yeah, no, for sure. Which we're maybe in the future, maybe if we were in Star Wars or something, but we're not, right? It's a tool, like you were just saying. It's a tool that is up to the. I mean, I think at this point, honestly, AI is a tool that is up to the whoever is making it, how we use it, right? We can't just like use AI like how we want to, unless you're like a computer engineer and you know how to like do all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't even know if we could call it a tool. I mean, I would call it a tool, but I think when you introduce that aspect of it, it should kind of change how we see it. Because, yeah, obviously there's a lot of, like, bad things you can do with AI, right? And people do, you know. But it's like, well, look at all this good it can do. And does that warrant an opinion of just being like, no AI? Like, get rid of AI. It's killing humanity, blah, 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 blah. Killing the environment, which I don't really fully believe in, but...
Wait, talk about that.
Yeah, talk about that.
You don't believe it's killing the environment?
No, so and this comes from people who study engineering, who know kind of like the actual mechanics of this kind of stuff that I've talked to. From what I understand, the ChatGPT does use a lot of water, right? In California, that's like that is a real issue, and that is destroying the environment. That's not an issue with AI though. That's an issue with OpenAI, like the company that is doing it. The way they run their model is using one that uses a lot of water. If you go over to China and look at, I think it's DeepSeek, they use a completely different model for drawing power and information, and it uses like I think over half the water that they do here. So it's it's a temporary issue. The problem there isn't with AI. It's with the
how
companies
it's being
kind of
used.
which I think is
Okay.
just an issue with the U.S.
Yeah.
But
The U.S.'s lack of regard for
right.
the environment
But-
in general. Okay. Interesting.
That is
Here's
interesting.
my 2 cents.
And like maybe like we'll get to the point in like AI where like you're not so reliant on, I guess, because this is like the new frontier of AI right now. So it's like we can imagine that it's gonna like change shape to maybe be a little bit more sustainable in the future.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
We can hope that.
But
Yeah.
on the note of like art and AI, I think that is an interesting subject. I mean, if we want to talk about recent examples, I think it just went out that Cardi used, like Playboy Cardi used AI on his recent album. A lot of people were upset with him with that. I know Coppola used AI for Megalopolis like a little bit, which
Yeah.
I get the criticism for that.
Yeah.
But also, if you're Francis Ford Coppola and you're you're really old and you're one of like the greats, this is kind of the coolest thing ever for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I honestly, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I don't fully blame him for using it. I think there are ways we can engage with AI in art that isn't just like, obviously don't write a poem that's AI. I think if you engage with AI in like a proper way, in like an interesting way, in like a meaningful way, then there is room for it in art. There's room for it in everything.
Well, I don't know. I kind of disagree with you about the Francis Ford Coppola thing because I don't know. I feel I have this like weird standard of like using like AI in art because there was this like indie film, I think it was called like Night with the Devil or something. It was like about a talk show that like is like possessed and whatever. And it was like a very like indie underground film, and people were getting very angry because there were a couple like posters or like little title cards that were made with AI, and they were like, we're boycotting this movie because those title cards could have been made by designers and you can't pay them. But like it truly was like an indie film. Like they had run out of like, because then they talked about it afterwards, like the filmmakers are like, we had run out of budget. This like this is like we didn't have any other choice. We had designers throughout the rest of the process. We had all these producers that were paid. But like with Francis Ford Coppola, I mean, I think that he has like and like who he's working with has a good amount of money to pay workers to do the work
Actually,
that they would have.
He didn't.
Oh.
He actually, yeah. You see,
Oh,
I don't want to be the actually guy, but he
No,
did
that's
sell his
valid.
wine company to fund that movie. He did not have
Oh,
anyone. No one
okay,
wanted to
wine
fund that movie.
company.
But
But regardless, like
I just feel like the
resource.
notoriety itself
Sure, and I-
kind of gives it.
We also have to question like why is
Actually-
it the last remaining resource for someone to use in a
Yeah.
creative project? Like why is it that we've, positioned it this way where you're out of budget, okay, let's use AI because that's accessible to us right now. Like
Right.
is it like their fault? Not
And
necessarily.
that's why it's like, yeah, it is a tool, and like I'm glad that it exists because it makes a lot of things more accessible. You can easily make things that like wouldn't exist. It's literally just like we need a transition here. We need a title
Yeah.
card. Here we go. But like, I don't know.
I think, yeah, I'll just I guess, go back to what I was saying. I think there's ways to engage. I think, like I was saying, what we were all saying earlier, we shouldn't completely reject AI.
Yeah.
You know, I think we should keep an open mind with it. I think there's ways to kind of engage with it, obviously in like STEM fields, but I think there are maybe ways to engage with it in art that can be sort of thought-provoking and meaningful. And I think if we just kind of flat out reject it, then there's no way to engage with those things. I mean, I think it is scary, right? Like you said earlier, it is kind of scary. It's a new thing, but I think there's ways that artists are doing it and like can do it. But again, don't write a poem using AI.
Yeah.
Don't type,
Yeah.
right? Don't pass that off as your own or whatever. But yeah, I think especially when artists are honest about it, you know, when it's like, well, I used AI to do this, and this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to say with that. It's like, well, what are we getting mad at, you know?
Right. I feel like using it as a tool is just like the main point I have about AI.
Yeah.
In creative spaces or outside of them. The point I was trying to make earlier that I completely just fell off of was that I also agree that the full rejection of it is not productive for anyone. I mean, this is coming from someone who's in the creative space, so we'll just like go on that thread for a second. But many people can agree, you know, you shouldn't use it to just like fully complete a creative project. But if you're using it in the context of a creative project to challenge AI, like if people use AI and interact with it in a creative work to make a statement about it or figure out, dissect why humans are so compelled to use this, what it's doing to the environment, what it's doing to like notes on accessibility general, I think that can be important. I think using it in creative work or helping you inspire or help you inspire your creative work could be fine. At the Writing Center, like we'll use it for outline creation for people's essays, even if they are like a personal narrative.
Right.
You know, like meeting someone where they're at. I think if you're not really
That's true.
into writing general or creation general and you find yourself needing to do it for something like a class or something else, if AI is a tool that helps you kind of get there, that's fine. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like everything in moderation. And I mean that so genuinely. And I mean that in like, I believe it's going to have to be baked into curriculum going forward. I believe it's going to have to be something that we talk about in all disciplines. MSU actually has a class, I'm blanking on the name of it, but it is like an AI engagement class for technical writers.
Right.
And you do a lot of analysis on AI produced work and then, you know, class produced work. You compare the two. They came into one of my classes and they paired up with students. They showed us their essay. They showed us the AI one. We had to be, you know, the guinea pigs on how to figure out which one wasn't AI, which one was. I think it's going to have to be taught to educators because students use AI, unfortunately, a little too much to complete work that they probably shouldn't. But I also think like fully running from it and rejecting it because people are upset that people are using it incorrectly. Okay, that's like anything. You can be upset that anyone overuses something.
I think intent is the
I think that's a really big ask, but I think that seems a little easier to wrap my head around than completely abandoning it and like signing off on it totally. I personally don't use AI like a lot in my day-to-day life, if ever. And that's just like a personal thing. But I don't know, I've met lots of students that use it for a variety of disciplines, variety of work, like I said, with outline creation. A friend and I were talking about AI being used as a tool for like language accessibility. Why would you shame someone for using a resource that is so accessible for them if they need help in a class combing through, if English is not their first language, let's say, if we're talking about Michigan State. I just feel like not letting your personal gripes with AI get in the way of how others engage with it is important. And also, but also expecting that people are using that like grain of salt thing we talked about earlier. Like you should know. Unfortunately, I don't think that happens. I think a lot of students like abuse it.
That's my thing. It's like, I mean,
in a perfect world, they wouldn't.
I agree with you on this, and I don't think that people are shaming the use of AI for like accessibility. And I think that I mean, maybe there are some people that are just like, get rid of AI because it's evil, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I think those are closed-minded old people.
I think we need to learn how to work with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think that I am like worried about like the too much dependency on AI, and then we're not gonna learn simple like essay structure, because I don't think people are using it for like full essays, but I mean there might be some people,
probably.
but like I think that the general population of MSU students aren't using it for like, here's my full essay written fully by AI, but I think that there are enough like, I don't know, shortcuts so that people aren't really engaging with the work that they're doing, and there's people that are throwing in like, and you know, I think that we've all been like, oh, I just need to skim this reading, but it's different when you throw it into AI and be like, summarize this paper for me that I should be engaging with in my coursework.
Right.
So I don't know, I worry about those things as well, and that's why it has to be baked into like policies and student handbooks. And I mean, they're starting to do that, but I think there still is a little bit of each professor has their own thoughts on it. Each college really has their own thoughts on it.
I think also, going back to kind of like examining, and this is not to blame an educator, because I'm not in the business of doing that at all. This is to blame like statewide or like nationally developed curriculum, which is currently on its way to collapse, but that's neither here nor there. I think we need to question why a student would feel so compelled to write an entire essay with AI or paraphrase their reading with AI. Like, are they not getting the support that they need in the classroom to do it? Are the directions so unclear? Is it one of those lectures where the professor, for example, might just not be explaining everything thoroughly because there's too many kids in the class? They don't have the time. It's not part of the curriculum.
Think that's part of it.
And that's why, you know, fortunately, things like small scale, the writing center at MSU exists. You know, you can have one-on-one tutoring. But the large majority, especially as we see the decline of the Department of Education, you know, in multiple facets financially, like, let's not get into that. I think it's going to maybe get worse before it gets better with people like using AI too dependently. Like, I think people are going to become super, super dependent, and in a perfect world, they could like figure out how to get out of that, if that's making sense.
Especially when you think about like who is the ones in charge of the AI. When think about like, it's the ruling class. Like, they're the ones, you know, it's CEOs and whatever, you know.
Because it works best for them. So like,
the AI is owned by companies, right? And so, when we talk about like how it's being used, it's like, when it's being used by large companies to shortcut labor, you know, that's obviously terrible. And I think that is reflective of wider issues that is just kind of showing up in this new thing that we have. Because I think when we talk about that, it's like, your issue isn't with AI, it's with everything else we're just seeing. This is just a new issue, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think. Sorry.
I fear that like education policymakers and like I think they think, oh, these kids are just so lazy, but like it's not. It's not really answering to like how many students are to a teacher, and that's why they're not engaged.
Exactly. Like, question why you think they're being lazy. Question why you think your student, you know, can't turn in a full thing or can't. Now, that's not to like excuse all of it, because I fully agree with you. Like, I think when you think about AI and creative work, okay, that personally bothers me because I creatively write, and I would not want to, I don't know, submit work to a journal that someone uses AI to submit to. Do I think that's happening all the time? No. Do I need to be super upset about that? Also, no, because there are much bigger fish to fry. A bigger fish to fry, in my opinion, is education. That's where I do get really, like, I'm with you, Liz, of getting, like, really concerned and upset with AI use in education, especially. I mean, college, we see it all the time, and we're college students, we can speak on that, but I'm thinking, like, about my younger brothers in high school and, like, middle school, you know, like, how is that getting into, I'm thinking about students like taking AP tests online, because I saw this video that like if you took APUSH, you write a DBQ, which this happens in any type of like AP testing, you have to handwrite a lot of it, but in APUSH you have to do a lot of timed essays. And this teacher came on TikTok and said, my students, though they know the content pretty well, are failing our practice DBQs because they literally cannot hold the pencil long enough to keep writing.
That's crazy,
because like they're not used to those practices, because that speaks to like other, I don't know, like functioning you learn as a child, and like what are those things called? Motor skills that you learn as like a younger kid. So I don't know. I think it definitely like bleeds into a lot of other things,
Yeah.
and education is where I personally get really, really fired up about it because I don't know. But then I think about like if I want to become an educator, would I be the kind that is like, you can't use AI in my classroom? I would prefer to have the type of relationship where like I want you to kind of challenge yourself, but I also understand like you have a life outside of this room that might hinder you challenging yourself in this way. So come talk to me before you decide to just use AI. I'll be far less upset with you. Type of thing.
Yeah.
But I would have to be able to have the like liberty to do that. Not a huge amount of students in my classroom, funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So then it's like, it's just like this big gross web, I think, that AI, which to echo Jack's point, gets caught up in, and that's the result of, because it is so accessible and people are using what is accessible because we're not really making other things easier to do.
Yeah.
So that's my rant on
No, and it's
education.
like, when you're talking about like your brother's like in middle school and like high school, like I feel like our generation for the most part, like that's in college right now, we kind of like got all the traditional like education. Of course, we had a lot more technology in the classroom than like say our parents or whatever. But we're kind of beating this like most of us can do our higher education without AI as a resource, but like they're so used to it, like are they going to be able to then like break away from that AI or resource, because like they might be using it all throughout high school, and then I don't know where it's going to go for AI policy in the future in higher education. Are they all of a sudden going to be like, okay, it might actually be evil, we're gonna turn away, and then they're like totally screwed now. And I guess that's what comes with experimenting with new technology.
Yeah, because how will you know what is time and place unless you screw up? This was not the time or the place to be using AI, and the unfortunate like victim of that is children who grew up using it all the time in school, as this example stands, and then not being able to use it again, or it being accessible and then it not being. I don't know, but.
I'm sorry, AP tests still using like paper pencil is kind of crazy though. Like,
I think they're transitioning to it mostly online next year.
Interesting.
Which and I agree with that, because
a bad thing. Like,
that to me is a huge physical accessibility thing.
Yes.
What if you now I'm not excusing you can't really write for that long because you didn't develop the motor skills of play as a child. That's unfortunate in its own right. But if you like break your arm, or you literally have another like hindering physical disability, yes, typing it is much better. So I stand with that teacher on that.
Also going online too.
Yeah.
Really, the SAT, that's crazy.
I did it's like my senior year of high school, or junior probably, because that's when you take the SAT. I got like an email. I got like invited to like do like one of like the test things.
Yeah.
And it's still in person, but like obviously you're just using a laptop. But I got to use the score, which is cool. And then they refunded one of my other SATs because I was being like a little guinea pig. But yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that you did better or worse because of the modality?
I want to say I got the exact same score.
Okay, great.
Okay.
But what
Well,
was
that's
cool
great.
was the reading and the writing flipped. So I got the super score. Like my scores for each flipped for that one. So I got the super score, and my overall was higher, which was nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I know that we probably want to talk a little bit about the other thing that I brought up, but is there any like final thoughts on AI? I feel like we touched on everything.
I feel like just use it as a tool. And if you're like a parent or an educator, or like you have access to developing minds who are using AI, like be careful with that. It's very, very accessible, but anything that is super, super easy comes with a lot of other potential like ramifications. It's like the internet in another way. I like your point earlier, Jack, about like treating it kind of the way you would treat Google, like explaining Google to a child or a student. Like it's a tool to help you get going, but like you're in charge of doing it. I think that's a big thing to say. Not like don't use Google ever. That sucks. Like never look up an article to help you finish off an essay. No, but.
And I want to say those exact same conversations were being had when the internet started happening. Is like
I just hope that those continue.
Yeah, it's like every single tool.
It's every new thing. It's like, whoa, don't use this for blah, blah, blah,
Yeah. In terms of the environment, like aspect of it, because I am in America and I know that the company who oversees AI use in America is not ethical when it comes to the environment. That's also personally another reason why I won't be contributing to that. Who's to say if I was in another country? I don't really know. Like I said, I don't use AI a lot in general. I don't seek it as much. So also just like be a conscious consumer of this tool.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts.
Nice.
you.
I like to be a conscious consumer of media. And
Okay, segue.
And so in that,
Into part 2, everybody.
I like to log the things that I read, have a Goodreads account.
Oh, yeah.
Spotify, we all love a Spotify Wrapped.
Good old Letterboxd.
Or
Good old,
Apple
a good old,
Music
a good old
Wrapped,
letterbox. A
if you're into
good,
that.
what's your 4 favorites? But I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of broadcasting that, like with a Spotify Wrapped, like with a Receiptify.
Jack's our guest because he just posted his Receiptify. And
Jack's
we're here to put
actually-
him on blast.
I did, yeah. And I usually don't post those. I like
So
mine, and I
welcome
was
to the
like,
hot seat.
So tell me. So I just want to talk about like broadcasting your taste and like what you think that like does for a person. Like, does that change people's opinions of you? So yeah, tell me a little bit about you, why you wanted to post your Receiptify this month, and yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was cool. It was a lot of it was Daisy and the Scouts, Taylor, some Daisy and the Scouts, some Bob Dylan, some Joan Baez, among other things. I don't know. I think I think posting. What I like so much about like Letterboxd, for example, is like the conversations you can have surrounding art, and I think that's like half of art is like talking about it and engaging with it, and I think that's on a very basic level what these kinds of things do. Is it's like if you share like your music and like what you're listening to, people can swipe up and be like, I love that too. And it's like, oh, why do you like, you can talk about that. And that's one of the best parts of engaging with art is like sharing it with people and letting people, talking about it.
Yeah.
I think keeping a log of it is cool personally. Like I've started to do like media recaps like the end of
I love
the month on like C Wrote It, because I like to put those together and they're fun, and I like draw little things on the screenshots of the songs I've listened to. But also I like to use it as like recommendations. I really enjoy consuming other people's like, this is what I read this month, especially if it's someone whose taste I already feel like I kind of align with, or even just hearing it from a friend. So sharing it's cool, and then same thing, like people will swipe up and be like, oh my god, have you heard this album? Like Paige had us swiped up and was like, if you like this song, you should listen to this song. And I was like, and I trust you and your take on that, and so I think it's cool. I think it's cool when you do it in a healthy way of like you don't necessarily care if people swipe up on it or engage with it or think that your taste is cool. I think it should be for you first. I think that's how it you won't burn out from doing this type of thing, or you won't get too in your head about what you're consuming if you're trying to consume with the idea that you're going to show it to people. I think that could be a little bit of a strange, like, slippery slope. But in general,
you don't want to do that.
In general, I feel like it's just kind of a fun thing if you just treat it as such.
See, and like when we were talking about this, I was getting in my head about it. I'm like, why do I feel the need to like broadcast, what because I'm also, like I said, I'm like on all these different apps and stuff, and I post my music, and I'm like, am I trying to create some sort of like aesthetic for myself that people want to project on me? And then I was like, no, I actually do like sharing music. So I don't know. I just wanted to see your guys' thoughts on it, because
I think that's part of it, though.
Yeah.
I think like obviously when you post your taste, people are going to associate those things with you.
Yeah.
Or people are going to associate you with those things. And then, humans are pattern-seeking creatures, right? That's why we have like types of people who enjoy like
certain types.
Like, oh, if you listen to X, Y, and Z, you're probably this kind of person. If you wear these kinds of clothes, you're probably this kind of person. So there's always going to be that, especially when you're talking about social media, because that's like what social media is. It's like kind of choosing what people are based on what you see. Based on what they give you. Or deciding what people are in your head based on, and that's when people get into those, like you said, rabbit holes of like, or slippery slopes of like choosing aesthetics for themselves and blah blah blah. So I think there's always gonna be that, whether you want to or not, whether your intentions are fully just I want to share my whatever I do or not. But I think that's also kind of fun, because I like when people say like, oh, I thought you were this kind of like aesthetic, and then but you're into this, so like now my mind is and it's like, well, yeah, that's the fun of it,
That's
like,
how a human being works.
Exactly.
Also,
Yeah.
like, it's good
complexity.
It's fun when
it's
people
like
do that.
good to challenge that, and I think as long as you're doing it with because you simply want to and like to, I don't see any problem with it. I think it is a fun way, especially now if like everyone's already on social media all the time, to have those discussions about art and things you're passionate about. I think it's like a more fun way. I love just sharing pictures like on Instagram too, but it's like an even more fun way to share
as long as
things that you're into because people could talk about them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like PJ came up to me in the office and he was like, I loved your review for 500 Days of Summer. And I was like, that's awesome. I didn't know you.
I
know.
love PJ's reviews on that. Everyone needs to follow PJ Pfeiffer on Letterboxd.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have people that you like to take reviews and like commentary from.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Do you guys actively search out people who have the same taste as you, or are you just like interested in engaging with their taste?
I feel like it's people that I have like some type of rapport with, whether it's like a friend recommends something to me, one because like they maybe think that's like a purposeful recommendation because they think I'll like it, or if it's someone I follow, I'm gonna say like an influencer or something, and I'm already following them because I like their style or like what they stand for with their platform. I'm more inclined to take a recommendation from them. I do fall victim to the like, if you like this song, you'll like these 5, and then I watch the whole video and I'm like, oh my god, you were right. So like, I don't know, stuff that kind of hooks me just with a little bit of like rapport or familiarity. So
No, I think I've always I have like a ton of saved like Instagram posts that's like, if you liked this book, you'll like this.
oh yeah,
and, like,
movies, podcasts, so many podcasts I keep just like bookmarking and not listening to. But yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
I love to recommend and hear people's recommendations.
I feel like I don't recommend that much because I'm like a little bit scared of people like being like, that sucked. But I like hearing
that's why I
other
think
people's
there's,
recommendations.
I think there's
Grain of
intimacy in
salt.
sharing. I think there's intimacy, like, in sharing that kind of thing, because it's like, it's saying like I know you're not gonna judge me for being into this kind of thing, and I'm also saying like I know you well enough where I think you're gonna. That's why I think giving books to people it's like my favorite thing to do.
Love that.
Well, you guys know because I give you books, but it's one of my favorite things to do because it's like, well, actually, it can either be a cop-out, right? It could be a cop-out gift because it's like I'm just gonna get you a book, like blah blah blah.
But you like reading, so it's not a cop-out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like if you don't really know someone, it's like, oh, well, you might enjoy this, but. I think on the other end of that, it can show that you actually, you really know someone, right?
Yeah.
Because you really, like, it's like, I chose this for you. And
Like, I thought
think this
of
is
you.
something, I thought of you when I
It's like
saw
when you
this.
recommend someone a song. It's like, I heard this and I thought of you.
Exactly,
And the
yeah.
person's like, oh,
Exactly.
my God, thank you.
No,
like, art reminded you of me. That's so great.
Yeah, it was so funny. I sent my mom a song. I sent my mom Bad Bunny's album, actually. And I was like, this sounds like your Zumba classes. Like, when I was growing, she's like, I love that you love me. Like, it's just like, and that's like the best part of it. Like,
Yeah.
Thanks. I don't know. I just want to talk about
And
that.
don't feel bad
Sometimes I'm just
recommending
like,
things to people.
I'm just
We
like,
want
but
to
like,
hear
what if
that.
you guys hate it?
Then we
I don't think
like it.
I don't think that's actually ever happened to me. I feel like I have okay taste.
to your own
The one thing that like me and my roommates, like I said, we should watch Tommy Boy, which is a Chris Farley movie, and there's never been less laughs in a room. And I was like,
And here's the thing, though, Liz. You still get to like Tommy Boy.
I do.
That's the thing about recommending someone to
love
something to someone is like, if they don't like it, the world turns because you still like it. Don't base your
But if they
perception
don't-
on other people.
Some of my, I want to say some of the best conversations I have with people is when they don't like something I recommend them.
Yeah.
And then that's a whole thing to talk about. It's like, well, what the hell? Why didn't you like that? You know,
Good
like this
point.
is my favorite movie. Why didn't you like it? And then that's a whole conversation. you know?
Yeah.
So all in all, be a conscious consumer all the time when you receive a recommendation or when you use AI for therapy. And
I still don't think you should do that.
go for walks too.
Go for walks and
walks,
touch
yeah.
grass, too. Anyways, thanks guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.